Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Today's video is one that I really did not want to make, but as time goes on, this topic keeps coming up over and over and over again, and as you can obviously read from the title, this topic is a discussion of who is better between Dwyane Wade and James Harden. And the reason that this discussion pisses me off is because it's fucking stupid. I mean no disrespect to James Harden, trust me when I say I acknowledge his talent. In my top 50 players of all time list, I ranked James Harden 27th, which is a lot higher than any James Harden hater, which I'm sure I will be called plenty by Harden stans in the comments section, would rank him. I'm fully aware that James Harden is an all-time talent, at minimum a top 5 offensive player of all time and just an overall great player. But at the same time, no fucking way is he a better player all time than Dwyane Wade. No way should he be perceived as greater, and in no way should he be viewed better even just purely as players. This isn't even a discussion that I believe should be necessary, which is why I really did not want to make this video in the first place, but in my most recent underrated overrated video on James Harden, I said that he wasn't better than Dwyane Wade at the end of the video, and that triggered a bunch of people. So apparently this is a conversation that we need to have, so let's have it. There is only one word that I have to say to make it clear that Dwyane Wade is a better all-time talent than James Harden. However, it's poor form to start on your greatest point, so I'm going to end on that. So let's look at Wade and Harden at their peaks. Longevity is of course a big part of all-time rankings. Like to me, Giannis is already one of the 20 greatest players to ever play basketball, however he has only really done it at that level for really 3 to 4 seasons. And I say all of that because in all likelihood, James Harden is going to beat Dwyane Wade in the longevity category. Wade has 8 seasons to his name where I'd say he was a top 5 player in the league, and for James Harden, he already has 8 seasons where he's been in that conversation, and I don't think he's going to just drop off after this season. But I think when evaluating players at their full talent, it's best to look at them at their absolute peak and their peak over a decent amount of time, so we're going to do that with these two here. The difference in these two at their peak is what's going to make up for the fact that James Harden is going to play for quite a bit longer at a higher level for longer. And also, the people that put Harden over Wade aren't doing that because they're projecting to the future. They think Harden is currently better than Wade ever was and rank him higher all time. Well, looking at their peaks, again, there is one word that I can say to immediately end this discussion, but I'm going to sit on it for now. At their peaks, James Harden is undoubtedly a better scorer than Dwyane Wade. You won't see me arguing otherwise. Taking their best 5-year stretches, Wade averaged 27.4 points a game, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds, doing so with a 57% true shooting percentage. James in his 5-year stretch averaged 31.6 points a game, 8.5 assists, and 6.6 rebounds on 61% true shooting. So that's more points, more assists, and more rebounds on better efficiency than Dwyane Wade. But there is a key context behind those stats that make that not as clear-cut as it appears. First of all, with the efficiency, one, Dwyane Wade played in a lot slower paced of an era, and I didn't really say that throughout the rest of this video, and I didn't write it in the script, but I should probably say that now, which makes up for some of the point per game difference. But also, I've made this argument a million times, and this particularly applies to true shooting percentage, where if a player came up at the time that James Harden came up and the league evolved the way that it did in the middle of Wade's prime, rather than basically towards the end of it. Basically what I'm getting at is Wade would have shot more threes and been better at it because that would have been a more vital skill than it was back in his time. And though I believe true shooting percentage is the best metric of efficiency, it unfortunately does not bode well in the case of former players, especially pre-3-point revolution players. For an example of that, look no further than Michael Jordan, who has a career 57% true shooting percentage, same as Wade's peak, despite being considered one of the most efficient guards of his era. Basically because Wade did not shoot that many threes and Harden shoots them like his life depends on it, he looks better in the true shooting percentage category because true shooting percentage loves 3-point shooters. It's the best efficiency metric today, but it can be a little bit shaky when you're looking back to the past. But with that being said, James Harden is a miles better three-point shooter than Dwyane Wade. Now, Wade is a miles better mid-range shooter, but that's mostly because Mike D'Antoni just completely cut that out of Harden's game. And also, as much as old fans would hate to hear it, three-point shooting is more important than mid-range shooting. Sorry, but that's just true. So yes, Harden is a better scorer, but I'd say Wade was about 90% as good at scoring as Harden currently is. Like, really turn Wade's mid-range shots into threes, and they're basically the same scoring-wise, but threes are worth more than two, so Harden wins. Now, outside of that, both are great slashers, great at drawing fouls, great at dribbling the ball, really good playmakers. Yes, Harden averages 1.5 more assists per game, but he also averages 1.1 more turnovers, so it really evens out. Technically speaking, Wade is probably better because he has a better assist to turnover ratio in a slower paced and worse spaced era, but I think that difference is negligible. And then if Harden averaging 1.6 more rebounds a game than Wade for their peaks, like, makes the difference for you, then I was never going to convince you otherwise anyways. So basically, scoring-wise, Harden wins, and then playmaking and rebounding-wise, they're pretty damn close, and it really doesn't matter. But let's look at where these two really get separated in their games, and that is in their playoff performances. Now again, to appease James Harden fans, I will say that he is not nearly the degree of playoff choker that people claim him to be. In fact, I don't even know if I would necessarily give him the title of a playoff choker. I actually have a video planned for that later. But what I will say is Harden is undeniably an inconsistent playoff performer who is prone to disappear in big moments. And when you contrast that with Dwyane Wade, it looks pretty fucking bad. Of course, Harden playing at just like 85% of his ability is still an amazing player, but that's still him falling off by a decent margin. Whereas with Wade, he is as good, if not better, in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. Still sticking within that 5-year peak area, Wade averages 28 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 6 assists with a 58% true shooting percentage in the playoffs, which is roughly the same as his averages from the regular season. In the case of Harden, I do have to say that I included the 2020 season in his 5-year peak, so there are only 4 playoff years in this peak period, so keep that in mind. But in those 4 years, Harden averaged 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists on 56% true shooting. So that is a notable drop-off from James Harden. However, their actual comparison when you're just putting these two side by side in the playoffs is pretty close. Once again, the difference in pace is making a difference here, but it's not that big of a difference. However, where these two really differ is the moments of the playoffs, which really is what makes a legacy. Evaluating players tends to be separate from certain moments. I think thus far it's fair to say that Harden and Wade have been pretty neck and neck to this point, when you're looking at them as just purely individual players and not what they actually did. But when it comes to all-time rankings, it really comes down to games and down to moments. And in this case, if you ask Harden fans what are the best games and moments of Harden's playoff career, there really isn't much. Because for Wade, there is plenty, especially in the 2006 playoffs. Now, Harden fans will often say in response to this, can you please put Wade over Harden in a debate without mentioning the 2006 playoffs? Well, one, I can do that, but that's a word that I'm saving for later, which I'm sure is obvious by now, but whatever. And two, no, I'm going to mention the biggest thing in Wade's career. Like, I really hate when people do that. Like, take away your strongest argument and then make an argument. Like, that's not how debate works. How about you argue Harden over Wade without mentioning that he's a better scorer? This is the same as LeBron fans who will be like, stop saying MJ is better than LeBron because he's 6-0. Like, no, that is a huge thing. Like, that's not how it works. So, stop. But anyways, Wade in 2006 had possibly the greatest individual playoff and specifically finals run of any individual player ever. I think I said individual twice there, but I'm not going to retake that. That year, he averaged 28, 6, and 6 on 60% true shooting percentage in the playoffs as a whole, but in the finals, the man went berserk. He averaged 35 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals, and of course, he led the Heat to a title with his next best teammate, Shaq, putting up some Tristan Thompson-esque numbers with 13 and 10. Wade carried Miami's offense to a championship, and when you look at James Harden, he has not done that. In fact, he has often done the opposite to a fairly notable degree. So in those big games and big moments when you need your best player to step up the most, I am without a doubt taking Dwyane Wade over James Harden. And if you want to have the help argument, first, Shaq wasn't close to peak Shaq in 2006, like at all. He was still very good, but not really that good. And I'd argue Shaq was no more talented than Chris Paul was in 2018, and even Russell Westbrook is today. Like, the man averaged 13 points in the finals. And I do want to point out that I've made every argument that I have with Wade thus far without mentioning the fact that later in his career, when he was still a very good player, he won 2 championships alongside LeBron James as the second option. Without that, I consider Wade a better player than Harden. And as much as the Kobe was carried by Shaq crowd would have you believe, being a great second option for a championship still contributes to your legacy quite a bit. But all of that I just spelled out there was an attempt to make it clear that just as individual players offensively, I think Harden is a good bit better, but his playoff record contrasts to Wade to the degree where both of their absolute peaks make them pretty close just offensively. But I say offensively because as I masterfully hid from you this entire video without any indication of what I was going to say, the reason that Dwyane Wade is over James Harden, the easiest, simplest reason, is defense. Now, once again, I'm going to extend an olive branch to James Harden fans because I do not think that James Harden is a bad player to any degree. I believe that James Harden is way better at defense now than he is given credit for, and overall his poor defense is often overblown. Basically, 2015 Shaq in a fool, not caring at all at defense James Harden is a thing of the past. But Harden still had that phase of his career, and even today's Harden is just an okay defender. Wade was a great defender. The best shot blocking guard of all time, great at getting steals, his athleticism and strength made him a pest on defense. He made 3 all-defensive second teams. I don't think those really indicate how good a defender is because Shaq won 2 of those in LA when he was an 1,000,000 times better defender in Orlando and he didn't win one there, but whatever. My point still stands. Wade is a considerably better defensive player than James Harden. I don't know why people seem to forget, especially younger NBA fans, that there are 2 sides of basketball. I'm not trying to sound like a boomer here, but that is one of the things that older fans tend to be right about. Defense matters a lot. Now, don't get me wrong, you can be so much better of an offensive player that it makes up for the fact that you are a much worse defensive player. Like, Steph Curry is certainly a better player than Paul George, but this is not a case like that. Wade was 90% the offensive player that Harden is, while Harden isn't even 50% the defender that Wade was. It really is just that simple. Now, with all of that said, could Harden eventually pass Dwyane Wade? Of course. He'll be 31 by the end of August, so there is still plenty of time to win a championship as the #1 guy. But that is what Harden has to do to pass Wade, providing that he can do that so well that it moves the needle to make up for that difference in defense. But as he stands now, the way that Harden has routinely underperformed in the playoffs makes up for that difference in offense, and Wade is a way better defensive player. So he needs to prove that his offense is more than 10% better than Wade's, because thus far, he hasn't done that. As he stands right now, no way in hell is James Harden a better peak player than Dwyane Wade, and no way in hell is he a better all-time player than Dwyane Wade. So that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and keep the outro music.